Tonight we mark Black History Month with a look back at the very rich and amazing story of African Americans right here in our own region. Connecting Point correspondent Carolee McGrath sat down with Republican executive editor and historian Wayne Phaneuf, former Springfield Library and Museums president Joseph Carvalho, and LuJuana Hood of the Pan-African Heritage Museum to learn about the history of slavery here, the Fugitive Slave Act, and John Brown's Springfield League of Gileadites and the Underground Railroad.
The first big story that came out of this goes all the way back to 1808, which was before there was an Underground Railroad. And in 1808, a woman whose name was Jenny she was an African American. She married a man in Springfield in 1802. They lived here. They had children. They were well respected. They were married in the church, the one that's still there on First Church. And so everything was going fine until a man showed up from New York State claiming that she was an escaped slave and was going to take her back because slavery was still legal in New York at that time. It had been banned in Massachusetts by then. And he had the right to do that at that time. Well, the citizens of Springfield got together, black and white, in a big meeting at the town hall, decided that they would offer this man whatever he wanted and buy Jenny's freedom.
Tell me the sites in Springfield that people would not even realize that were involved.
Well, we'll tell you one site, okay? John Brown's warehouse. And you'd be surprised to know where the first warehouse was. It's right behind you, Old Columbus Avenue. Right behind you where you have that big satellite dish. And then in front of, and he moved the second warehouse in front of the Massasoit House, which we always talk to about as the Hippodrome. And it's right across the street.
Right, where the Mayflower Hotel was.
But, exactly.
So it's just places that you're driving by every day. But that brings me to John Brown. Tell us about his involvement here.
Well, and I would follow up on what LuJuana was saying. The History Museum, the Wood Museum of Springfield History at the Springfield Museums, has John Brown's desk, which was this huge piece of furniture, big enough to hide a person in. And he would hide escaped slaves in there as they came off the railroad. I literally came off the railroad. He and his lieutenant and person who worked for him was Thomas, African-American leader in the community, worked there. And they would hide people and then head them off to safe houses in the city.
But explain a little bit more about John Brown, too. He had a huge role.
Well, yeah, of course. John Brown came to the city in 1846, stayed here till 1849, had a wool business, and that was significant because the slave power was a cotton power.
Right.
So this was the freeman's textile was wool, and so that's what he was dealing with. And he lived in the community very close by. In fact, what street? Franklin Street, just on the other side of where the railroad tracks are. And he also was a parishioner at the Western Mass's first African American church, the Free Church or Sanford Street Church, which is basically where the Mass Mutual Center is now.
Wow. Okay.
And he was a parishioner. Went to the services there. Probably one of the few white people in the parish. And he was very influenced by Reverend John Mars, the African-American preacher, who was a very influential and certainly virulently anti-slavery preacher. And he heard his sermons about beating your plowshares into swords to fight the slave power. Right. Well, that impressed him.
Yes.
And then we talk about the fact that Frederick Douglass, the great anti-slavery abolitionist African-American leader who came to Springfield and met with John Brown. And in that meeting changed perhaps U.S. history because Frederick Douglass was convinced by John Brown that there couldn't be a peaceful solution to the slave issue.
I know that Wilbraham-Munson Academy is going to have a series on this coming up in a few weeks, but I was surprised to hear how involved Wilbraham was.
Well, in my opinion, Wilbraham is the giant in the Underground Railroad, because what they did was the town had, when the school moved from Munson into Wilbraham, and they had decided that they were going to allow African Americans to come to the school. The whole town got involved. Henry Bibbs was a runaway slave, and he had gone up to Canada. And there was a man in Wilbraham by the name of John Coughlin. He was a shoe merchant. He was actually sending money into Canada to help Henry Bibbs publish the first African American newspaper called The Fugitive's Voice. The school has a who's who in African American that will blow your mind. James Lindsay Smith, who was a runaway, who actually came here to Springfield, met Pastor Osgood. Then he met Mr. Elmore right across the street from John Brown's warehouse. And he actually put him in the back room so no one would know that he was there. And he was a shoemaker by trade. And he decided that he wanted to go to school. And they said, Wilbraham's the place for you to go. John Jefferson Smallwood was a slave. He had been taken from his mother, and he ended up in Wilbraham going to school there. And lo and behold, he was a great orator. Even the newspaper was to write, "Watch out, Frederick Smallwood's in town." He never got the notoriety that Frederick Douglass got, but he was a great orator. Well, guess who comes to Wilbraham, Mass? London, England's Literary Society. They come and they asked him to go back with them to London for 6 months to talk about the Negro problem in America. They pay him $6,980. That's a lot of money. And he goes to London, he comes back, and he comes back to Wilbraham, he meets Headmaster Steele, and he says, "I really want to meet my mother. Find my mother for me." So Headmaster Steele goes on this search to find his mother, and he finds her. And she tells him, "Your grandfather is not Turner."
Wow. Wow. So there's amazing history right here. Thank you, Wayne, LuJuana, and Joe, for coming in and talking about this. It's fascinating. I really don't think a lot of people understand just what Western Massachusetts was involved in back then. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.